Aquí vamos, muy bien. Y bienvenidos, bienvenidas. Espero que ustedes estén bien. I hope you are all well. ¿Sí? Más o menos. Bien, bien, fantástico. Es la última clase de la primavera. Sí, primavera. No me siento como estamos en primavera. I don't feel like we're in spring anymore, but I guess we are for their purposes. This is the last spring session. Next week, just a reminder that next week we do not have class because that is a week off, hiatus week, if you will. And so we will start back the first full week of June, not this coming week, but the week after. And of course, you'll get your Zoom notice that, well, probably that Friday or Saturday before. So, okay. Muy bien. Vamos a practicar con un juego de adivinar. Y no es juego exactamente, pero conversación para hablar de cuál es la cosa que es diferente. Vamos a repasar cositas del video de hiking en el Gran Cañón. Sí, we're going to review. Thank you for sending your verbs. I'm going to show you kind of a pretty full list of the things that she used. And I want us to notice something about an abstract idea about the full list of verbs from that video. And feel free to ask any questions about that video that you need. We're going to have another small group issue or session with the color slides. But again, you're going to see all of these as you go into breakout rooms. Y vamos a ver. We'll see if you have any questions about the 2 videos I sent you for homework, and maybe you did or did not have time to, practice them as much, but we'll see what we have time to fit in with that. ¿Y qué más? ¿Qué más? Eso es todo. Ok. Vamos a ver. Vamos a formar grupos más pequeños para hablar de las cosas y para dar una razón que una cosa del grupo es diferente, ¿sí? Y vamos a hablar un poquito de estas cosas. La primera actividad, our first activity. Bien. Vamos a hablar en grupos más pequeños sobre la cuestión de esta tarde, cuál es diferente en cada serie y por qué. Y tenemos A, B y C, 4 grupos de objetos, de cosas. En el primer grupo de cosas, en la línea A, tenemos la sierra, saw. Hey, if you came in before time, you know why I picked this one. La sierra. Y es mi modelo. Es el modelo de sierra que tengo yo en casa, ¿sí? Un maquita, una sierra. Una navaja. Una navaja no es siempre box cutter, pero es la mejor palabra para este objeto, ¿sí? La navaja would be technically a razor, like an old-fashioned razor, but something super sharp, right? ¿Sí? Muy agudo, very sharp. Navaja, anything that's a razor sharp cutting edge tool could be called a navaja. Originally, it was used for the old-fashioned shaving, like from the old Western movie, that single blade puppy that can't believe people ever did use. Las tijeras y la rasuradora. La rasuradora moderna. That's a mouthful, ¿sí? Es una palabra muy larga, rasuradora. ¿Ok? En la línea B tenemos la patineta aquí, ¿sí? La bici eléctrica, el triciclo. El triciclo y la motoneta. Motoneta es como un carrito. La motoneta aquí es como el modelo que vemos en el supermercado o en Home Depot, en una tienda grande. Bien, la motoneta. Bien. Y en la línea C tenemos cosas que a veces no hay una palabra exacta. El queso Limburger, el queso Limburger, ¿sí? El queso suizo, el queso brie, ¿ok? Y el queso parmesano. Bueno, y ustedes van a ver las fotos en los cuartos individuales. Bien, vamos a tener, a ver, como grupos de 3 más o menos, creo. Sí, ok, bien. Bueno, and you don't need to make notes of these, but you will see them in the room when everybody hits the join button. I think we need to give you a good 7 minutes, sí, 7 minutos. Ustedes van a tener 7 minutos para hablar de cuál es la cosa diferente en cada serie de cosas A, B y C y por qué. Y el por qué es importante. You know, there is no one right or wrong answer to these, ¿sí? Bueno, muy bien. Deberían de ver un botón que dice join. You should see a join button. And once everybody hits that, I can send the pictures in to your little rooms. A ver, muy bien.
Bless my computer.
Can you find your join button, Connie, or not?
I did. I hit it, but I think it's just taken long.
Oh, okay. Sometimes it takes a bit to kick in.
I don't know.
And sometimes not.
Again,
Yeah, I can still see you, so it's.
I know.
There we go. Oh, and Brian, I'm giving you a join button to join another room.
Okay, thank you.
No, está bien, no problem.
Gracias.
De nada. Okay, Connie, you see a join button yet? I tried moving you to a different group to see if that would work. Sí or no?
Yeah, I joined, but I'm still having the same. No,
okay.
I did say yes.
I don't know that you can see the pictures. I don't know that I can share between you and me, but let's just think about it. So I'll talk you through it since it's not working here. Don't feel badly. I had somebody I was tutoring this last week, and believe it or not, she actually joined Zoom and it didn't even kick her into the big Zoom room. And I never got a notice saying she joined. So let's, if you got a chainsaw, a box cutter, tijeras, scissors, right? La rasuradora, shaver, which would be different? Which one would you pick out of that group to be different? ¿Cuál es diferente? Sierra, navaja, tijeras, rasuradora, saw, box cutter, scissors, rasuradora, your, Norelco kind of guy's shaver. Yo diría, I would pick, actually, there are a few different things we could pick here. I'm going to give you one. See, una pista, clue. Oh, ¿tienes una idea? You have an idea? I can hear you. There's a little bit of a lag.
Can you hear me?
Sí.
Yeah, I hear you. Good. Yay. La sierra es diferente porque usar un
Oh. Do we have Connie? Oh, no. It sent Connie into the room. Wow. She had a big lag. Wow. That's the mystery of the internet. Well, I guess her join button finally kicked in. It sent her into a room. Okay. And now I need to time this because I wanted to have Connie not be by herself. I did not set my timer button. I was talking with her. Okay. En los grupos van a hablar de, en línea A, la sierra, la navaja, las tijeras, la rasuradora. Yo elegiría, I would choose la sierra porque se usa afuera. No se usa la sierra dentro de la casa. ¿Sí? Pero hay otras cosas que podemos decir, por ejemplo, que la rasuradora es diferente porque se usa en el baño, porque se usa en el cuerpo, bien, la rasuradora, o quizás alguien puede decir que las tijeras son diferentes porque no son peligrosas. They're not exactly dangerous. Sí, son agudas, they're sharp a veces, pero no son peligrosas, etcétera. Bueno, en la línea B tenemos la patineta, la bici eléctrica, el triciclo o la motoneta. Yo elegiría, I would choose la motoneta. La motoneta se usa los enfermos usan. Connie, estás aquí.
Sí, I'm on my phone, teléfono.
Oh, teléfono. Let me see if I can assign you back. Hang in there with me. And if it doesn't come up, just stay with me.
Okay.
Let's see. Vamos a ver. We'll send you in room 1. See if you get a join button.
Yep.
Yay. I don't know where they'll be. You missed maybe a couple minutes, but that's okay. Está bien. Éxito, success. Hola, Susana. I need to send you to a room, yes?
Oh, okay, yes. Sorry, listen.
You're okay.
I'm not sure if I'm going to stay the whole time. Are we recording right now?
We are, and we got people in smaller rooms.
Okay.
I'm going to send you into room 2. Here we go. See if you get a join button. Hopefully
All right. Thank you. I do.
De nada.
Thanks, Marilyn.
Está bien. That's okay. Sometimes our schedules do not cooperate. Such is life. Así es la vida. Okay. En la línea B, yo diría, I would say la motoneta porque los enfermos, los gravemente enfermos, usan la motoneta. O quizás alguien puede decir el triciclo es diferente porque tiene 3 ruedas, o el triciclo es diferente porque los niños muy jóvenes usan los triciclos. En la línea C, los tipos de queso. ¿Y cuál es diferente? El queso Limburger es diferente porque huele mal. Smells really bad. Pero quizás alguien puede decir que el queso brie es diferente porque es muy suave, tiene textura como, no es líquido, pero es muy suave, ¿sí? No es un queso muy duro. Quizás el queso suizo porque tiene espacios, tiene espacios dentro del queso. Ok, vamos a ver. Quizás 2 minutos más. We've got maybe just 1 or 2 more minutes. Vamos a ver. Ok. Set my watch. I don't want to give too much time. But definitely we want to have enough. People can have fun with that. Quizás almost there. We're going to set up the system for closing the rooms, bringing everybody back in. Vamos a ver. Okay. People must be needing, maybe I didn't give them enough time. Hopefully they did. We'll come back and discuss. Okay. Aquí, bien. Aquí vienen más. Here come the more folks. Estamos aquí. Sí, todos estamos aquí. Muy bien. Okay. ¿Qué opinan ustedes? What do you guys think? ¿Qué opinan ustedes? ¿Cuál es la cosa, sí, que es diferente en la línea A y por qué? En la sierra, la navaja, las tijeras, la rasuradora.
Solo la sierra requiere 2 manos para usar.
That's good.
Okay. Buena razón.
Sí.
Me gusta. People always surprise me with the things they come up with, things that I hadn't even thought of. Okay. Bueno, otra idea. Otra idea.
La sierra, la navaja y las tijeras cortan muchas cosas, pero la rasuradora corta pelo.
Pelo, sí, pelo de la cara, de las axilas, de las piernas, sí. Eso es, sí. La rasuradora es la única cosa que se usa en el baño.
Mhm. You could use
Para,
last year.
para afeitarse, ¿no?
Mhm.
Por lo general. Bueno, otra idea de la línea A.
Las tijeras tienen 2 hojas.
Sí, ok. Vale, bien. Bien, bien. Momento. Ok, bueno. ¿Hay otra idea?
La sierra usa para árboles grandes.
Bien, sí. La sierra es la cosa que se usa fuera de la casa. Fuera de la casa, ¿verdad?
Mhm.
Fuera de la casa, ¿sí? La navaja se puede usar dentro de la casa, las tijeras, la rasuradora, claro. Ok. Bueno, ok. B, patineta, la bici eléctrica, el triciclo y la motoneta.
Okay, how about el triciclo es diferente porque es roja.
Ok, el color. Por el color, because of the color. Sí, se puede decir, sí. Vale, otra idea.
La patineta no usa manubrio.
No usa, otra vez, Susana, no usa.
Manubrio, handlebars.
Oh, ok. Ok. Eso es, sí, sí. No hay que manejar con las manos. Sí, bien. Exacto. Me gusta mucho. Otra idea.
We wanted to say that you have to stand on la patineta, but we couldn't quite get the vocabulary.
Hay que estar parado o hay que pararse. You have to be standing up. Sí, pararse can be used as standing up. Está parada is to be in an upright, to stand up on it. Sí, bien. Ok, otra idea.
La patineta tiene una plataforma.
Tiene una plataforma. Eso es. Bueno, otra idea.
La bici tiene 2 ruedas.
Tiene 2 ruedas, sí. No sé exactamente, patinetas quizás 4, ¿no?
Sí.
Quizás 4, sí. Triciclos, 3, obviamente, sí. La motoneta tiene 3. Bueno, me gusta. Ok. Ruedas, el número de ruedas, the number of wheels. Me gusta. ¿Algo más? ¿No? Bien, ok. De la serie letra C, ¿cuál es el queso que es diferente y por qué? Es muy subjetivo. This is very subjective.
El queso brie es la más suave.
Sí, creo que sí. Se puede poner en el horno. Se puede hornear el queso brie, ¿no? You can bake it actually, sí. Se puede, sí. Ok, si tienes una masa, you got like a dough, ¿sí? Se puede poner en el horno. You can put it in, o se puede meter en el horno. You can put it inside the oven. Otra idea.
El queso Limburger es diferente porque es en el paquete.
Está en el paquete. It's in the package.
Sí.
Está en el paquete.
Está
en el paquete. Es ubicación. It's location, ¿sí? Más o menos. Sí. Está en su paquete. El queso Limburger huele mal, ¿no? Huele mal. Huele mal. Tiene un olor.
Sí.
Olor es a smell, es el sustantivo, that's the noun. El olor del queso Limburger es muy fuerte. Es bastante desagradable
Sí.
para muchas personas, por lo
Sí,
menos.
como una rata muerta.
Como una rata muerta. Huele a rata muerta. It smells like a dead rat. Sí.
Ok,
Una vez fui a un restaurante. Ay, no me acuerdo del nombre del restaurante. Era un restaurante muy, muy, muy pequeño en el norte de Wisconsin. Y se servían Limburger.
I don't know anyone.
Era un lugar famoso, según dicen muchas personas, para un tipo de queso Limburger. Pero, huele mal. Wow. No me gustó para nada. Pero hay personas que vienen a este restaurante muy específico en el norte de Wisconsin para comer este tipo de queso Limburger. Es el mejor queso Limburger de todo el estado de Wisconsin. Vale, pero todavía huele mal. Still smells bad. Ok. ¿Algo más? ¿O no?
El queso parmesano es, here we go, raya.
Se puede rayar. You can grate.
Mhm.
Here's one of our words we will use. Summer session, we're going to focus a lot on foods and words that you use to talk about how you prep foods or how they're prepared. And there's one of our words we're going to see a lot because sometimes you do see the word grated on restaurant descriptions of specific kinds of foods, yeah? Grated cheese is rallado. Es un queso rallado. Rallado se escribe R-A-L-L, ¿sí? A-D-O, R-A-L-L-A-D-O, rallado. El queso parmesano es un queso rallado generalmente. Bien.
Gracias.
Okay. Muy bien, Cindy. ¿Algo más de la línea C o no?
El queso suizo tiene agujeros.
Tiene agujeros. El queso suizo tiene agujeros. Eso es, sí. Y los otros no. Ok. Bien. Bueno, vamos a ver. Creo que esto es todo. Ok. Vamos a seguir a otra actividad. We're going to move on to a different activity now. Ok. Bien. Si hablamos del video de la caminata en el Gran Cañón, the hike in the Grand Canyon. Now they had translations below. So I assume you don't have a ton of questions because you can see what she was talking about both in English and in Spanish. But was there any kind of a question you had specifically about something she talked about or a phrase she used? Because maybe you saw the translation, but it's like, well, why did she use that word? Anything along those lines that was puzzling to you or not? Nada? Okay. Bien.
Well, okay.
Is it helpful to have those types of videos where they have both the English on top or excuse me, the Spanish on top and the English below.
Yes.
Ah, sí. Okay. Bien.
There
Okay.
was a phrase, yo le además. And why would you have le?
No.
She's talking about the water splashing on the
Ladder.
walls.
Oh, the salpicada, splashing.
Right.
And it was a verb she used. Can you type it in the chat box or?
Well, it was just 3 words. Además, I know that, but yo, and then it was le además. And I'm wondering why it was le. Why did she say le además?
Wow.
I don't remember.
I cannot picture. That was towards the end, right?
It was probably about in the middle. She was at Mooney Falls.
Oh, in Beaver Falls, that one?
No, Mooney. She go down the ladder.
On the ladder. I'm trying to look for it because it's
wait
not.
a minute. Okay, wait a minute.
It's not. Oh, La Cascada Mooney. Okay.
Okay,
Había dejado las botas con piedras adentro.
No, and she says yo le tengo miedo.
I was scared.
Oh yeah.
But
See.
why do you need the le? Why wouldn't you just say yo tengo miedo?
She was scared of it.
Okay. Tengo miedo. Sí. That works. There are a few different. Actually, there are quite a few different ways to say that you're scared of something. Yeah, scared of it. I'm letting it go so I see exactly what she used.
But if it was it, wouldn't it be lo or la and not le?
Yo le tengo aquí yo le tengo miedo a las alturas. I am scared of heights. I am scared of heights. And the le tengo miedo, the le is talking about the thing that she has fear of, which is heights. It's just, it's not, because she wasn't just saying, I'm scared of it. I'm scared of heights. Yeah, the le is talking about the heights. This thing, it's an abstract thing, and that's why it's a le. That's about the best I can describe that. Okay, there are different phrases that people might use to talk about being afraid, like tener miedo, and it's usually tener miedo a. Instead of being afraid of, you usually see a and not de. You sometimes hear de, but you more often hear a. You may also hear the verb asustar, to scare. See? Eso me asustó. That scared me. So there are different ways to talk about being afraid. I would say don't get real hung up on the le part of it. She was kind of talking about an abstract thing.
Okay.
Not being afraid of a person, but something. Okay. Otras cositas. Any other things? I want to show you, a lot of you sent me a list of verbs. Muchísimas gracias. Many, many thanks for that. And I'm going to show you a pretty full list of verbs that you probably heard her use. Some of them were repeated, and therefore I didn't, list them twice. But viaje que hice, a trip that I made. Pretérito, recorrí, I toured. Pretérito, fui, I went. Me alejé, I drew away from, I moved away from. Alejarse is a little bit difficult to translate, but alejar is to withdraw, to get far away from. Me alejé. Elegí, I chose. Pretérito, otra vez. Reservé, reserved. Pretérito, otra vez. Comencé. Pretérito, otra vez. Comencé, I began. And notice with comencé, fíjense por favor, please notice No stem change in pretérito. One nice thing about pretérito, there are a lot of bad things you can say about pretérito because it is hard to use. It is hard to use, and it is hard to use because there are tons and tons of irregulars with that preterite past tense. But one nice thing is that there are very few stem changes. Notice I did not say zero. There are some stem changes in preterite, but they are fewer and far between. Okay, so the usual ones that you think about, the stem changes that you usually see in AR verbs and ER verbs go away. All right. IR verbs that are stem changers do get some little stem changes. We can talk about that another time, but where you normally get comienzo, I'm beginning, it's comencé. That stem change goes away. It goes back to the there of comenzar. It goes back to that, right? So comencé, I began or I started. Dormí, I slept. Pretérito, otra vez. Me desperté, I woke up. Pretérito, otra vez. Manejé, I drove. Pretérito, otra vez. Usé, I used. Pretérito, otra vez. Fue, it was. It was, or could be he or she went. Ser and ir share the exact same verb form in pretérito, which is really very weird. So up here, fui translated as I went because she went to a place, but she mentioned here something was awful. I think she was talking about bad things that happened to her feet with having new boots. And fue, it was, you do hear that. Pretérito otra vez. Terminé, de terminar. Pretérito, I wound up, I finished off, okay. Golpeaban, golpeaban de golpear. Golpear is to hit, okay. Golpe is a blow, a physical blow, okay, not the wind blowing, but a physical blow. And golpear is to strike a blow. Golpeaban is, es imperfecto. That's an imperfect because she talked about something that I think she was talking about the feet there. They were doing, okay? They were hitting against things.
Front of her. Yeah,
see?
the front of her shoes.
Front of her shoes. That's what she was talking about. Yeah, the front of her shoes. Okay. Front of her boots. Me hice. Hacerse can mean to become. I don't remember the exact situation that was used in, but it is pretérito otra vez, preterite again. So this hice, the fue, the fui, they are totally weirdo, strange, bizarre preterites. They are definitely what we would put into a category of these are irregular examples. Fui, fue, and hice. Total, flat out, very irregular preterite forms. A lot of preterite looks like not very much like the original verb it comes from. And those are three big examples there. But the other examples here are things where you can go back to the original verb for sure. Llegué, from llegar, llegué, I arrived, right? We got a little spelling GUE thing there, but aside from that, it looks very pretérito. It looks very much like an AR verb thing. Rellené is to fill again, to refill. Llenar means to fill. Rellenar es to refill. So rellené, I refilled. Okay. Seguí, I followed, I continued. Okay, that would be pretérito for seguir, to continue to follow. Entendí, from entender, to understand. Entendí, I understood. See, me paré, I stopped. Okay, and so far we have an awful lot of pretérito verbs. Oh, but now we've got quería. Quería, I wanted. And notice, we've talked about that a little before. Querer in The past, we usually use it in the imperfecto. Most of the time, when we talk about emotions or feelings in the past, we generally, like 80% of the time, wind up using imperfecto. And with querer, definitely you hear it all the time in imperfecto. Quería, I wanted to do something, right? And then she switched to me quité, from quitarse, to take off, like clothing or jewelry. Here she was talking about clothing. Me quité, I took it off myself, and she was talking about clothing. Amarré, pretérito, otra vez. Decidí, pretérito, otra vez. Descansé, I rested, pretérito, otra vez. Regresé, pretérito, I returned. Sí, me animé. I got my, animarse es difícil de traducir. Animarse is a hard thing to translate. It's like to buck up, to get yourself revved up. I'm psyching up, to psych yourself up for doing something, right? That's animarse. Me animé. I got up the courage. I got excited to do this thing. Me metí, or was it me? No, me metí, perdón, me metí. I put myself inside of something. Me quedé. I remained someplace. Estaba, and then we switched to an imperfecto. How somebody feels. And then we had, another imperfecto. These places were at a certain distance. She had kilómetros. Then we switched back to imperfecto. Me preparé. I got ready. Then we had cedían. Here she was talking about, the shoes. She was hoping the shoes would give. Ceder is usually used as in giving in to something. But here she was talking about her boots. She was hoping they would stretch out. And here it was stretch. And she used imperfecto because it was description. Funcionó. Funcionó. Oh, y perdón. Funcionó. We don't have an I there. Funcionó. Funcionó. Worked like a device or an idea that didn't work, a strategy that didn't work. When we talk about people working, it's trabajar, okay? People working, or ants working in an anthill, or, anything about living entities working, that's trabajar. But when you talk about maybe a strategy working or a device working, functioning in a certain way, they use funcionar to say that something worked. Funcionó, okay? Me encontré, pretérito. And then she switches to salpicaba. And I can't remember if it was salpicaban, plural, or salpicaba, but salpicaba was splashing. Mojada was getting wet, okay? And then gané, which literally is I won or I earned. And I think she was talking about managing to, like, succeeding in doing something there. She had a me quedé again, another pretérito. Evité, I avoided. Sí, pretérito. Recuperarse is a weird one. It does mean recuperate, recuperated, but it's a past subjunctive. So don't worry about that one too much, because that would take a bit to explain. And then tenía imperfecto, me crucé, pretérito, eran imperfecto, iban, was going, imperfecto, llevaban, imperfecto, me puse, and here I think she was using this to say I became, like I got tired, or I got something. She was talking about an emotion kind of thing. That was pretérito. And recordé, I remembered. What the vast majority of these verbs, these are all the verbs you had to choose from, and picking 5. to send to me. The vast majority of these are in preterito. I'm going to, and we talked a little bit about in the past how when we tell a story in the past, it is impossible to tell it with only one verb tense. And you can see how that happened here, although here it was quite lopsided. So the verbs that you see here that I'm underlining are not preterito. The ones I'm underlining here all wind up being, perdón.
Yeah.
All wind up being imperfecto. But when you look at the percentage of verbs that are in one tense to the other is quite lopsided in this particular story. And the tense that winds up being used way more than anything else is preterito. Probably because the nature of her story was recounting what she did on a hike. And it was very action oriented. So when you get a lot of action oriented stories in the past, you might get much more lopsided preterito, a very much larger percentage of preterito coming in, because she was telling you what she did at each stage. But notice where she did choose sometimes to use imperfecto. So where did it happen? When she was describing that her feet were hitting inside of her boots, that it was happening over and over again, she had to use imperfecto, because it happened so many times that her feet were bumping down into her toes of her boots that she couldn't count how many times she did it, right? When she talked about how she felt that she wanted to do something, she used imperfecto. When she talked about what she had, imperfecto. When she described things, eran or estaban, because these were descriptions. Imperfecto, she had to switch into that. Where something was located, quedar can be a substitute for estar, to talk about location. And if something was located, that's not an event. It's a description of where it was relative to other things. So it goes into imperfecto. Here she was describing it, something was wet, that things were splashing, and not things that happened once, twice, three, that you could count how many times, but they're descriptions. So they were imperfecto. Even the shoes, she hoped that her shoes were stretching. And that's not an event thing. It's describing how those shoes felt, or how those boots felt on her feet. So those had to all go into imperfecto. So we'll keep doing things like that, where you'll hear stories. And I'm trying to find more on these channels where they give you both the Spanish and the English, to make it easier for you to listen for a long time. So, or where you can easily turn on the closed captions. So I just wanted you to notice that a little bit. And you noticed, of course, some of her color words as well. So let's do a little review. We're going to bring up the screens here. I want you, for the first screen, I'll show you which one we're going to look at here. We're going to switch a little, talking about imperfecto and versus preterito. we're going to talk about some color words. And I had given you some of these to take a look at and think about what might I use to talk about these pictures. So I'm going to have you maybe go into, actually, we're going to use these to talk all together. So you've got kind of a framework of how will we use these, and then I'll give you some breakout room time to talk about subsequent pictures. But we'll do this first one as sort of a model, un modelo, to model things you can say about these pictures. ¿Cómo describes los colores de estas fotos? And what we have on the side here, these are all just possible words you might use to talk about these pictures at the left, a la izquierda, ¿sí? Las tres fotos a la izquierda. Tenemos un paisaje. Tenemos un paisaje aquí. We've got a landscape. O el cielo, the sky, right?
Mhm.
Or el paisaje, the landscape. Maybe you want to talk about that. Tenemos dos brazos, two arms. Y tenemos aquí en la última foto huevos, unos huevos, algunos huevos. Ok, ¿y cómo podemos describir estas cosas? Por ejemplo, el cielo aquí. ¿Es un cielo qué?
Chinche. Chinche colores.
Really loud. Ok. ¿Tiene colores chinches? Sí.
Es
Tiene-
colorido.
Colorido es un cielo colorido.
Colorido y colorado.
Y colorado. Y hay una diferencia entre usar el término colorido, que muchos colores muy vivos, y colorado. Colorado tiene la idea de algo rojo, de tonos de rojo. Bien. Bueno, ¿qué más podemos decir del cielo aquí?
Pregunta. Do you
Sí,
pluralize Colorado for red tones? Is it los colorados?
You could say, por ejemplo, las nubes coloradas, red clouds, nubes coloradas. Sí, all these words that you see at the right, a la derecha. Well, I'm not going to say all. Vamos a ver. Many of them are things that you have to think about. Not toques. Yeah, not all. Toques is a noun, but many of these predominantly are adjectives, which means they're most of them, not toques, not mate really. But the other ones will go into plural forms or singular forms, masculine or feminine forms. So it's something to keep in mind if you're talking about el cielo, right? Okay, si hablamos de los dos brazos en la foto, ¿qué podemos decir? O quizás dos brazos o la piel.
Sí. Un brazo es amarillento.
Bien. Un brazo es amarillento. Un brazo es amarillento. One arm is definitely yellowish. ¿Sí? El otro brazo es de tono normal, es de tono neutro.
Neutro, sí.
Neutro, normal. Bien. Ok. Si hablamos de los huevos, ¿qué podemos decir?
Son
Los huevos.
turquesa.
Ah, sí, son huevos turquesos.
Esos.
¿O
Ah.
qué más?
Azul verdoso.
Azul, son huevos de azul verdoso.
Sí.
Sí, de azul verdoso of a greenish blue. Son huevos azulados. Es posible. So there's necessarily no one right thing, right? Sometimes we perceive colors differently too. So we've got that.
Una pregunta.
Sí, dime, Susana.
So if I wanted to say greenish blue or bluish green,
Bluish green.
I would put verde first and then azulado.
Well, bluish green.
Because
Sí.
bluish is an adjective.
Un verde azulado.
Okay.
Or sí, un azul verdoso. Un azul verdoso would be a greenish blue. Oh, sí. Ok, bien, sí. Bueno, los huevos. ¿Cómo les parecen? Son el color de los huevos. ¿Es un color suave? ¿Un color muy colorido?
Suave.
Más suave, sí.
Well,
Menos intenso.
Colorido.
Oh, colorido, bright? You think those are bright? Quizá.
No, they're saturated. They're
Sí.
they're
Okay.
not pastels. They're
Otro ejemplo, another example. If we were to look at the sky, we could say, el cielo tiene toques de violeta.
Sí.
Tienes toques del morado. Has touches of purple. See? So there are many ways that people might use to describe these. And that's kind of what I want you to do. We want to do this as a model. I'm going to send you in to just talk about these things here. And you've got the words right with you. So you'll see these in the Zoom screen. Okay. Vamos a hablar. Let's get some nouns of what we're going to use, because we need to know what maybe we need to change these colors to talk about the things. We could talk about el cielo, the sky, el paisaje, the landscape, el agua, ¿sí? O quizás el lago. Let's call this la bahía. Let's change it a little bit. La bahía, the bay. Bien? La bahía. Okay. Por ejemplo, aquí.
I don't know what that is.
¿Sí?
flamingos.
Los flamingos. O los pájaros. ¿Bien? Los pájaros, los flamingos, más específico. Aquí ustedes van a hablar del mar, el color del mar o los colores del mar. Y quizás sí cerca de la orilla, near the shore, y quizás lejos de la orilla. Lejos de la orilla, cerca de la orilla. Bien? Okay. There is no one right or wrong way to talk about these, with the exception of if I'm looking at this picture of La Orilla or La Playa, I'm not really going to be using words like marron, right? You know, that's not going to fit, marron, right? But there are many different terms in here that you might talk about, okay? So I want you to practice talking in the group about that a little bit. You'll see the pictures and all the terms when you go into breakout rooms. ¿Está bien? Vamos a ver.
Pregunta.
Sí, sí, dime.
When the color orange, is it, I looked it up and I found naranja and I found anaranjado.
Bien, sí, you did. I'm going to include that in the word list. Gracias. Are
they both
anaranjado?
correct?
They're both correct.
Because I always think of naranja as the fruit.
Yes, and it is. I am putting that on the list as well. Gracias. Thank you for asking that. They did not touch upon that in the video that you had. Anaranjado is a mouthful. Kind of like, yeah, kind of like some of our other words here, but anaranjado puts an A in front of that. It comes from naranja, orange, the actual fruit. Okay. Some people use color de naranja, color of orange. Some people just use naranja and naranja, boom, that's it. Not going into really a whole lot of different forms. And some people like to use anaranjado, and it kind of depends on their feeling. I've heard some people say that some things are used more in Spain versus Mexico, but I am not convinced that it's true because I've heard people in Spain use just naranja by itself. So both of those are permissible. You have a blessing to change that. And if it's easier for you to say naranja, which is usually is for most people, I say go with that. And you know what? No matter what is customary in their region, they're going to know what you're talking about. So you will be understood. Okay. So never worry about, oh, is that right or wrong? Will they like it or not? They'll understand the idea you're trying to get across. And that's all that really matters. Es lo importante. It is the important thing. Okay. Bien. And I've put that into our word list. So you'll see that. Ooh, and Kathy, I need to assign you to a room. We'll get you assigned in here. And you should see a join button and you'll see the words once everybody hits their join button. Y gracias por venir, Kathy. Thanks for coming. I think we're going to give people just 5 minutes to talk about this. 5 minutos nada más. Y nos quedan 3 minutos, 30 segundos. Ok. A ver, bueno, aquí vienen todos. Here comes everybody. Ok, bien. Bueno, Y vamos a ver. It occurred to me that I should have talked to you a little bit about the pinky thing too, the pink thing, but color de rosa, ¿no? Ok. ¿Qué opinan ustedes? What do you think? Any ideas? Sí, ¿qué podemos decir de, por ejemplo, del cielo aquí o la bahía o el paisaje? ¿Algunas ideas que quieren compartir? Any ideas you want to share about this picture? ¿Sí o no?
Sí, sí.
Ok.
El agua y el cielo son coloridos, pero suaves.
Pero suave, sí, bien. Otras ideas de las tres fotos.
Los flamingos tienen tonos de rosado con toques de negro y amarillo.
Ok. Sí, toques de amarillo, toques de negro, sí, del negro también, sí. And again, rosado is one of those words you may hear, rosado for pink, you may hear color de rosa or just rosa. You may hear those that express any way there. Okay, sí, con toques, touches, little bits here and there. Excelente. Más ideas.
I said los flamingos son salmón. El color de salmón.
Me gusta, sí. Excelente. Bueno, ¿qué podemos decir del agua? Las aguas del mar que están cerca de la orilla, ¿sí? Y comparar el agua cerca de la orilla con el agua lejos de la orilla.
El mar cerca de la orilla es más claro que el agua lejos de la orilla.
Bien, sí, más claro. Claro is one of the words that is often used to talk about lighter. If you look up the word light, you'll see ligero usually listed first. And sometimes you do see ligero, usually light as in having lots of light, as in light from a lamp or light from the sun. Sometimes you do see ligero with colors, but more frequently you hear claro, right? Claro, that idea of clear is used generally to talk about lighter colors in many, many cases, okay? But, suave también, soft also, but claro would be definitely for these things con el agua, ¿sí? Se usa
Pregunta,
Sí, dime.
Could you use medio to show the middle range of the colors from oscuro down to claro?
Más como mediano.
Yeah, okay.
Mediano, medium-ish, ¿ya? ¿Sí? O, por ejemplo, el color del agua es más oscuro cuando está lejos de la orilla, ¿sí? De un color más intenso, more intense, ¿sí? Un azul más vivo, a sharper blue, ¿sí?
Okay. Do you say like if it was clear, the water is clear?
Claro.
As well?
Claro.
Claro.
Sí.
Lighter, clear. Okay.
Claro como el agua. Clear like water. It's a phrase, an expression that is used quite a lot. Claro como el agua. Okay.
So would you say más claro or muy claro?
Muy claro, very clear. Yeah. Más claro is more clear. And now you've got to compare it with something else. Más claro que. See, el agua cerca de la orilla es más clara que, vean, que el agua lejos de la orilla. ¿Bien?
Okay. Sí.
Buena pregunta. Ok. ¿Algo más o no?
I have one. Let's see if this is correct.
Sí, dime.
El agua es tranquilo con colores de azulado y verdosos.
Ok. El agua es verdosa. Okay, el agua is an odd thing because when we use words to describe the water, they'll actually be feminine words, even though we say el agua. It's an odd animal. This is one of the oddest animal nouns of all. It is el agua, but it is in fact a feminine noun. So any descriptive words talking about el agua will have to be feminine words. So el agua es verdosa. El agua es azulada, es clara. It is something I will describe later. It has to be el agua because it is a noun that starts with an accented A sound, which means we use el as the word, but it was really a feminine word. So, el agua clara, el agua verdosa, el agua azulada, así, like that. Bien?
So you wouldn't say it is. So, because I had S, tranquila.
Es tranquila, sí, es tranquila. But that really doesn't describe the color. But you can definitely use tranquila because it's not crashing. Right? See? Es tranquila, but we will really use for that está tranquila.
Okay.
Está tranquila will be better for that because when you're talking about tranquila here, it is the state the water is in, whereas the color is just what it really looks like. Yeah. So usually es any form of ser, right? Es or son with colors to describe it. But if I talk about water being calm waters, usually more está, because that's the state of the water is extremely changeable. Okay.
So I think I mixed a lot of that up then, because then I said con colores de azulados y verdosos.
Con azulado, okay. El agua azulada, you won't really need con color de.
Okay.
Con color de. You want to cut that stuff out. Con color de. Color de rosa works. Color de naranja, that works. Okay. Con colores suaves, soft colors, that works. Con toques de, with touches of, that works. But if you're going to use verdoso, azulado, you want those without prepositions like con.
Okay.
Does that make sense? See? Yeah?
No, that's okay.
Okay.
If
And I know some of this gets a little bit tricky too, because yeah. Con toques, that's with touches of, and then you do need a con, but you don't with the majority of these other words.
What if you use mezcla for a mixture of?
Oh, con una mezcla, then you can use con. Con una mezcla de, okay. Susana, qué buen punto. What a good point. Por ejemplo, el agua, veo el agua como una mezcla, because mixture is a feminine noun, con una mezcla del azul, del verde, de... Sí, de de azul muy claro. But then you're injecting the word mezcla, a mixture. See? And mixture is now a noun. Con una mezcla, with a mixture of. Con una mezcla de. And then you'll name the things. So, el agua tiene una mezcla de azul, del azul, de azul claro, de azul más intenso. Así, like that. Buenas preguntas.
This is just simple before we move on.
Uh-huh.
Marilyn. If you're talking about the sea, though, El Mar, the adjectives stay masculine, right? If you
It stays masculine, yes.
Okay, just
Yes.
checking
El
before I
agua. We'll talk about why el agua does what it does, but it's kind of a technicality thing. And it's just know that agua really is a feminine word, even though we call it el agua. That's good enough for now.
I have one other question on the flamingos.
Sí.
So I was going to say, los flamingos son muy rosas oscuras y rosas claros, but I got mixed up with what's feminine and is it flamingos rosos or is it still rosa? I was confused.
Flamingos de color rosa. Flamingos de color flamingos de color rosa, de color rosa. O flamingos rosados. Bien.
And then if I wanted to say light pink or dark pink, is it rosas oscuras?
Rosa clara, rosa oscura.
Got it. Thank you.
Bien, de nada. Bien. Okay. Vamos a ver. I want to give you a chance to talk a little bit more about some different things here, just for a while. Uy, sí. Rápidamente, pero van a hablar de otras cosas. De las hojas, aquí, de las hojas. Hay dos tipos de hojas, número uno, ¿sí? Las hojas, las hojas a la izquierda, for lack of a better, because I don't really know what kind of leaves those are. No sé cuál, no sé de qué planta vienen. I don't know what plant they come from. Las hojas a la izquierda, las hojas, a ver, a la derecha. Bien, sí. ¿Qué son? Son como semillas. These are like seeds, right? Granos. Let's call these granos.
Granos de café? I don't know.
Son como granos de café, ¿no? Those are kind of like coffee beans, no?
Or
This is what
nuts
we're
of
going to
some
call them.
kind.
Those are
son nueces.
Sí.
Son nueces. Sí. Ok, vale. Las nueces. Nuts. Sí, gracias. Sí. Aquí es simplemente el agua, los árboles, sí, depende.
Swamp?
No sé, I'm not sure.
Cienega. How about that?
Yeah, you'll just
No,
want
El Lago in Fountain Hills.
No tenemos árboles en el lago. Sí.
Es
Sí.
verdad.
Es como un lago. Van a hablar del lago. Quizás no de los árboles. Aquí de la piedra. The rock. ¿Sí? Entonces van a hablar de las nueces. Aquí, las nueces. Del lago. Aquí, de las hojas a la izquierda y comparadas con las hojas a la derecha y de la piedra o quizás del cañón. Es un cañón realmente. pero la piedra, ¿sí? Y quiero que ustedes practiquen un poquito más. And breakout room, you'll see these when you go into breakout room and you hit your join button. 5 minutos. Ok. A ver. Ok, nos quedan 30 segundos. Vamos a ver. Ok, aquí vienen todos. Here comes everybody.
Pregunta,
Aquí
Marilyn.
vienen todos. Ok.
Pregunta.
Sí, dime.
So when do you change the O's to the A's at the end? Like, is it verdosa? If you're talking about
Ok.
hojas?
Si estoy hablando de las, si estoy hablando de estas hojas, if I'm talking about a la izquierda, on the left, ¿sí? Son hojas muy verdosas.
Sí.
Son
verdosa.
hojas muy verdosas.
Sí.
Son,
sí. Y también amarillentos.
Ok, sí. Por ejemplo, las hojas a la derecha son hojas muy amarillentas. Amarillentas. Son hojas amarillentas. So here's where it can get a little tricky.
Yeah.
If I want to say they're yellowish leaves, son hojas amarillentas. Nada más, nothing else, right? But if I want to say they are leaves of a yellowish green, now I'm probably just going to use that they are of a green that is yellowish. So it will sound like this. Las hojas a la derecha son de un verde amarillento. De un verde amarillento. A green that is
back to the
yellowish.
color, is that right?
Right, because now I'm referring to the color. So you may hear things used in a couple of different ways. If they're talking straight out about a color, it's got to be el verde, el rojo, el azul, el marrón. Okay, so las hojas a la derecha son de un verde o del verde amarillento. But if I want to say they are yellowish, las hojas a la derecha son amarillentas. Amarillentas. If I'm not using the green word and then adding yellowish to the green. ¿Entiendes? Understand?
Okay.
Sí. Now, could you say las hojas a la izquierda son verde azulados? Y las a la
son verdes, son de verde azulado.
So, okay, so you need the de.
Or you can just say son verdes con toques de azul, or son.
Well, I was just going to say verde azulados as in bluish green. Y las a la derecha son verde amarillentos.
Amarillentos.
You have bluish green and you have yellowish green.
But you have to be consistent. So, son verdes con toques de amarillento, okay? Or son amarillentas. You have to be consistent. If you're going to plug in verde as the color itself, that has to say masculine very consistently. See?
Right. Okay. So
I guess what I'm saying is make it easy. Just stick with las hojas a la izquierda son verdosas o son verdes, pero azuladas. Verdes, pero azuladas. I know it does get a little bit tricky, doesn't it?
Well, I thought we had in our example things like verde azulada or
in that video.
Right. So
yeah,
I
a little bit
using those straight out of that.
But you do have to look. Sometimes we use just the colors. Son verdes. Okay, verdes azuladas, you could. Yeah, you could. Son verdes azuladas, bluish greens. Sí. Funciona. It works. Tiene sentido. It makes sense. Bien. Okay.
And if somewhere along the line you want to throw in the word claro or obscuro,
where?
Obscuro, light or dark, does that have to be gender specific?
Okay. You're usually going to have that with the color itself, masculine. So, okay. Por ejemplo, el lago es de azul oscuro. El lago es azul. El lago es azulado. El lago es de azul oscuro. De azul oscuro.
O de azul intenso.
De azul intenso. Sí, sí, exacto. De azul intenso. Tiene sentido. That makes sense. Sí. Bien.
You don't use the de if you're just saying azulado. Is that right?
No. Well, yeah, I know these get kind of technical because sometimes we're throwing in some days, sometimes it depends on what other words you're adding in besides the color words. See? Okay, otro ejemplo. El lago, and I'll show you how this, I know it does get a little confusing, but it depends on if you're throwing in other words. So, por ejemplo, el lago es azul de un tono muy oscuro, de un tono muy oscuro. ¿Sí? Las hojas a la derecha son verdes con tonos amarillentos. It depends on what other words you're throwing in there, which we kind of often do. So I know that sounds good, but listen for the words, listen for the words they use to describe. And you should recognize the ideas they're conveying. If we talk about la piedra, one thing I want to make sure we do before we get too far, because we're going over time a little bit here. La piedra, ¿cómo describen ustedes la piedra aquí? The rock.
Rizojos, naranja.
Oh, okay. La piedra.
Red orange is what I'm trying to say.
La piedra. Oh, okay. Piedra rojiza anaranjada. Rojiza naranja.
Rojiza.
¿Sí? O una naranja rojiza.
La piedra. Okay, so rojiza.
Sí. femenina. There we've got to really put that in feminine. La piedra es de naranja rojiza, de marrón rojiza. If you see more browns in there, right? De marrón rojiza, así. Bien. Piedra rojiza. You can just use rojiza in there. Or piedra colorada. So people might plug in different color words in there to describe that. They could you could hear people flat out saying, la piedra colorada. Es posible. Bien?
Sí.
What if you inserted tonos of?
Tonos, then the color word is going to go along with tonos. La piedra tiene todos o es de tonos rojizos. La piedra, ¿sí? La piedra tiene tonos marrones, brown, por ejemplo. ¿Sí? Depende de, but tonos is going to take precedence if you throw in tonos, Susana, ¿sí? And then it's going to, the adjective word is going to pair up with whatever we do with that word.
So
Tonos.
it agrees with tonos and it doesn't agree with piedra.
Sí, eso es, sí, sí, bien. ¿Ok? ¿Bien?
See,
Sí.
confusing.
It can be kind of confusing. It can be. You know, what we want to do is just give you a chance to match up some words that go along with these colors so that you recognize them when you hear them. Because I know a lot of times we do insert con tonos de, with tones of, con toques de, with touches of. And there are a lot of, con una mezcla, a mixture. And so, yeah, I know it can get a little bit confusing, but the basic idea you should come away with from this is that there are a lot of color words that go más allá, beyond just using rojo, amarillo, right? Azul, verde. There are a lot of words that will go into more nuanced colors.
And they're never in the books.
And they're very seldom in the books. Okay, I'm going to give you one example that is really kind of we have that term navy blue. That's azul marino. Azul marino.
That one makes sense.
It makes sense. Tiene sentido. It makes sense. But azul marino. And that is you could say azul oscuro, dark blue, and that gets close. Un azul muy oscuro, that works too. You can manipulate some of these descriptions a little bit, but azul marino would be, strictly speaking, navy blue, which is a color we use a lot. So, así es. So it is. So, you're going to hear, sí, dime.
Okay, one quick question. Last week, did you say that all colors are masculine?
Well, okay. With the exception that, like, if you are accustomed to using rosa, well, qué buena pregunta. La
the reason
rosa,
why I ask,
el rosa. I think it'll still be el rosa.
okay. If I was in a store and I saw something that was orange, and that's what I want, I would say el naranja.
Actually, I think she did cover that in one of the videos. Yeah, el naranja, el rosa. Sí, it's all colors are considered masculine.
Okay,
that is true.
you.
Sí, es la verdad. Sí, tienes razón. You are correct. Okay, bien. Okay. Yeah. I think we need to cut it off at here because the people will have things to do as we're going a little bit over time, but that's okay. Está bien. Okay. Vale. Muchísimas gracias. Many thanks. Muchísimas gracias a todos. Sí. Gracias por su atención, por su sus sentidos de entusiasmo, sí, your enthusiasm. Muchísimas gracias. And I hope that I see a lot of you come summer. I know some people are traveling and that's fine. But for those of you who are coming back, I will see you in a week's time. Next week, we will not have a meeting time. ¿Está bien?
¿Está bien?
Sí, sí.
Excelente. Muchísimas
Right.
gracias.